Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for Healthcare Leaders of New York's Executive Breakfast Series. Today's session is focused on the art of career pivot, reinvention with purpose. This session will be led by our incredible colleague and friend of Hilney and of our market, Calandra Branch, Regional Director of Ambulatory for New York Presbyterian Health System. My name is Darren Daraj, and I'm your 2025 Healthcare Leaders of New York President. Hilney is your local American College of Healthcare Executives chapter, here focused to support you, healthcare professionals, on your growth and rise throughout your career, every step of the way on your career journey, from student to early careerist to middle careerist to senior careerist, C-suite, all the way to retirement. Your chapter is here for you, providing you with networking, educational advancement, professional development, service activities, and so much more. We're excited to have you join us today for this incredible session led by Calandra and for even more activities helping us close out 2025, a year of value for you, our members. Without further ado, I hope to see you at further events, and I'm with you in enjoying today's session led by one of my great friends and colleagues and an incredible leader. Without further ado, Calandra Branch, why don't you take it away? Good morning and thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Good morning. And good morning, HLNY and friends and guests and supporters of HLNY. This is my favorite organization, and I'm really honored that you all invited me to come here today. I've been in ACHE for many years. I've been a fellow for I think the last 6 or 7 years. I've lost track. So it is an honor for me to speak with you all. So I want to say thank you, all of you who are in attendance, for coming in at 8 o'clock to listen to me speak. I'm going to go through my presentation. I don't have slides because I could have just emailed those to you. So I want to have a little bit more interaction. At the end, we'll try to make plenty of time for questions. And again, thank you all for inviting me. We're talking today about career reinvention with purpose. And I really like the way that the team kind of reframed what I was going to speak about and putting it in that context. So it's just not about pivoting, it's about reinventing with purpose. I've been on my career journey in healthcare for the past 33 years. I'm in the process of reinventing. I keep joking with people that I'm in the autumn of my working years and I'm reevaluating my next steps. I've mentored early careerists, mid-careerists, because those are the stages that I've been through. And I want to be able to help people reinvent, but I have to reinvent myself so that I can share that experience and make that part of my mentoring conversation. So today's lesson in leadership is about reinvention, not just for the sake of change, but reinvention with purpose. So I want to focus on how do we align or how do you align your professional journey with what matters most? Because that's at the heart of why reinvention is important. We're in a healthcare industry that by nature is always centered in change and often in rapid change. Think about after COVID, how many people in healthcare either left healthcare or they started to do something different in healthcare because they felt that motivation. Sometimes those kinds of events help us to really determine why we do what we do. We start with our why. They go back to why am I here? Why am I doing this? Sometimes we go through those kinds of periods and want to do things that are a little bit more meaningful. Now, I tell people in healthcare all the time, I don't care what you're doing in healthcare. I don't care if you're environmental services, if you are a healthcare executive, if you are, an accountant in finance in healthcare. We're here to serve people. So you have to have service in the heart of what you're doing. But sometimes you want to do things even more service oriented. But I want us to look at reinvention as a necessity. It's really another stage in your career growth. So, whatever's prompting you to change, whether it's wanting to do something different, whether it's wanting to be more meaningful, this is an opportunity. So, don't look at it as a bad thing, but reinvention and pivoting is a powerful tool. It's a powerful opportunity to realign what you do every day with your values and passions. And that's the journey I've been on really for 33 years, but especially most recently, as I get toward, you get to the point where, okay, that I've done what I want to do. I still have a little bit more climbing to do. But as I think toward, getting closer to retirement, you really want to make sure that you're doing something that you're passionate about. You get to a certain point in your career when what I call your toolbox or your toolkit has really filled up. Now, we talk in ACHE about being lifelong learners. And when I took my fellow pledge, I think that was the phrase in our pledge that really got me was to be a lifelong learner. So we never stop learning. So the toolkit keeps filling. But now you want to see what other ways can you use the tools in your toolkit. So I'll give you an example. When my children were little, they loved playing with Legos. My son especially. So we would every Christmas we would buy him a kit. And of course it had some, final character or final scene to set up with the Legos. He would have the picture on the box. He'd have the instructions inside, all his puzzle pieces that of course my husband and I would step on in the middle of the night. Um, but he would put together whatever it was on the box. One time he lost his instructions. And I said to myself, oh, he's going to stop playing with it. So I'm spending time online trying to find the directions. And meanwhile, he has taken those Legos and he has created something totally different than what he created the first time with the instructions. That's what we are when we're reinventing. We have all of our puzzle pieces, we have all the tools in our toolbox. We want to see how else can I put my career together. So let's look at how do you approach reinvention with a sense of purpose? Because you want to make sure that that next chapter that you move into is fulfilling and impactful. It's going to take making a significant change. This is not just a simple transition from one job to another. This could be changing your entire career or professional trajectory. That might include switching industries. It might mean retraining, going back to school, starting something totally new. Or maybe you want to redefine your role in your current field. So you still want to be in healthcare, but maybe you want to go into IT instead of administration. Maybe you want to move from admin to finance. Maybe you want to go into a clinical role. It's more than just changing jobs. This is an intentional act that you're doing, and it's driven not by making more money, not by getting a better position or a different position, but it's because you want greater satisfaction out of your career. We spend a lot of time away from home, or if you're working remotely, you're spending a lot of time with your colleagues, interacting with them, working. It's a shame when people are working so hard and they don't find meaningful fulfillment or purpose in what they're doing. So reinvention is really not so much about getting another job, but it's fulfilling that desire to be more satisfied, to have more meaning in what you do, and growth. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Pursuing changes in your career with a purpose, it really means aligning the work that you do with your core values, your interests, and your strengths. Now, hopefully, you're not waiting till now in reinvention to do that. Hopefully, that you've been doing that throughout your career, is aligning your work with your values. Because I feel that as you get older, as I am, and older in your career, this alignment becomes critical. Your lives are changing. Maybe you get married, you have a family, you move into your first home. Maybe you have to take care of family members. Things change in our lives, and our work sometimes has to change with it. Sometimes you find that I have to make sure that what I'm doing is giving me meaningful purpose. because there's other things going on in my life that I want to make sure everything is in alignment. When you do things with purpose, it gives you direction and it motivates you and it gives you resilience during all these times of transition. So think of it as taking steps to achieve a certain goal. If achieving that goal is really important to you, you're going to do your best. You're going to plot your path. You'll be motivated to keep going no matter what's going on in your life. And eventually, you'll reach your goal. When I was growing up, my mother always said to me, if you really want to do something, you'll do it. And I find myself all these years later still saying the same things to myself as well as to my children and to my mentees. When your career starts to reflect what matters most to you, you're more likely to be more fulfilled. And not only that, fulfilled for yourself, but you'll make a lasting impact. So, once again, you should be doing this all throughout your career. So, I challenge you today, ask yourself, does my career, does my job, does my work reflect what matters most to me? If you can't answer that question, or you're answering that question no, or you're having trouble answering that question, that might be a hint for you to think about pivoting and redirecting so that you can answer that question with assurance that it does reflect what matters most to me. So, Calandra, how do I reinvent? There's a couple of things that you need to do, and a lot of these things are things that we, again, should be doing anyway. Self-reflection. You've always got to be reassessing yourself. Look at your skill set. Sometimes you have to take inventory of your toolkit because if you're not using certain tools, you might forget that you had them. So reassess your skills. Then look at what are the things that you're interested in? What are your values? So, for example, for myself, I know what my skills are in leadership. I'm a mentor, I'm a coach. I like to teach leadership. I like to encourage my leaders on my team to become better leaders. I like to teach. That's my love language is teaching and mentoring. And that's important to me. My values are that my family comes first. But at the same time, they also understand that I have responsibilities at work and I'm able to balance the two. So what are your skills? What are your interests? And what are your values? And then I want you to ask yourself, what energizes you? So, what energizes me is knowing that I am making a difference, whether it's at my work in terms of my department or my organization. What energizes me is my family, knowing that at the end of the day, every day I have a transition phrase. I say my day is done. And when I come home, I'm wife, I'm mother. Those are the things that energize me. Teaching makes me crazy because it gives me so much energy. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Now, that's really important. Even in your early career, that's an important thing. I learned a long time ago, whatever position I sat in, I wasn't trying to be better than the person who sat in that chair before, but I wanted to leave my legacy. What do you want people to remember about you when you leave your role or when you leave your organization? What impact do you want to have made? Those are the things that help give you purpose. And then think about what environment do you want to be in? Which environment works best for you? A lot of us learned about remote work during COVID. Many of us have the opportunity to, be remote when we would like to. Do you want to be where you have to be on site all the time? Do you find yourself liking working in smaller spaces or in with large groups of people? Those are things that are important to consider. Once you do that self-reflection, then you really have to say, okay, what is my purpose? Is it helping others? Is it still trying to climb the corporate ladder? Is it being creative and providing solutions for people? Or is it something where you want to contribute to a specific cause? Once you identify that purpose, it's going to help you define the roadmap toward your reinvented career path. Creating a roadmap is going to help you guide your choices. So this is something that I teach. This is my mentoring 101. If anyone out there has been mentored by me or is going to be mentored by me, this is your first assignment. And it's because it was the assignment that was given to me by my career mentors. The first thing you have to do is figure out, what do you want to do? And where do you want to be in 5 years? Not necessarily what job title or what organization, but what role do you want to be playing in the next 5 or 10 years? And as my mentor said to me, okay, now that you know what you want to do, what are the steps that you need to take to get to that goal? So it's the same thing when you're thinking about reinventing with purpose. You know where you want to end up. What are the steps that you're going to need to take? It is really crucial to do that exercise, because as you grow in your career, as you reinvent yourself, you need that roadmap to keep you guided. So you if you know what you want to do next, if you have an opportunity, or maybe you have a question, or there's a challenge, always ask yourself the question, is doing this going to put me on the next point in my trajectory? Because if you can't answer that question or don't answer that question, you may go all different kinds of places, and then you won't be focused on doing things with your purpose in mind. So, an example is, I was in behavioral health for 3 years here at New York Presbyterian. And then I left New York Presbyterian, went to another organization, and I spent another 3 years in behavioral health. And I loved behavioral health. But I think during COVID, it kind of affected me. And I really wanted to come out of behavioral health. So I also wanted to be in another level. So there was a job opportunity that was presented to me that would have put me at that next level, but I would have been staying in behavioral health. So I did what I always tell my mentees to do. I said, is this going to put me at my next point in my trajectory? So the first answer was yes, because it's giving me that position that I wanted. But then it was also no, because I knew that I wanted my next point to not be in behavioral health. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic there. And I had to really think about which choice was really going to take me to my next level. And I knew that staying in behavioral health was not for me. So I took the opportunity to say, thank you, but no thank you. And then I created an opportunity by presenting that position to someone else to apply for it. So you have to be able to plot that trajectory. Then you have to explore, well, what is it that I can do? I know my purpose. I know the tools that I have in my toolkit. I know what my skills are. What can I do? So sometimes you may know that you need a change, but you're not sure how to align what you want to become with what role or what job is best for you. So start looking at different industries, look at different roles in your current organization, because again, you might just want to switch gears, but still stay in healthcare. And what are the educational opportunities? So ACHE, HLNY, always, always, always great networking opportunities with professionals. Because when you're in HLNY or you go to ACHE Congress or other meetings, you're going to find people in healthcare who are in different pockets of healthcare. So you may find yourself wanting to go into IT or wanting to go into finance. You'll still find those professionals within this organization. And also talk to people who have gone through their own reinventions and have done these kinds of transitions. And then always look for mentors that are kind of in alignment with that as well. Now, if you're looking to go outside of healthcare, which of course we don't want you to do because we want you to stay in HLNY, find the equivalent of ACHE in that industry. Go back to your alumni associations and look for resources. So I graduated undergrad from Hofstra University, and anyone who knows me knows that I bleed blue and gold, and that I'm involved in quite a few alumni and boards at Hofstra. So I know that even though I was a bio major at Hofstra, let's say I wanted to go into nursing, I can still go back to my alumni association and find the people who graduated from the School of Nursing, or get involved with the School of Nursing Alumni Association, and then see about getting resources there. There's always resources. The same resources that helped you get your job can help you transition or reinvent yourself to another role. You also then have to, you know your skills, you know your purpose, you're looking around, you're seeing what things you could do. You now have to identify your gaps. What do I need to do next? Because sometimes it's going to involve developing new skills. So look at what you want to do, look at what it requires from you, and then look at what's in your toolbox and identify the gaps. What am I missing that I'm going to need in order to do this new thing? Am I going to have to get new skills? This might mean getting another degree or a different degree. It may mean going back to school for some kind of certification. It might mean taking a few online courses. Maybe you might need to volunteer. You may need some hours to get some experience in this new role. What are side projects that you can get involved in your current role that will help you build that relevant experience? I want to caution you, do not forget to assess your transferable skills. What's in your toolbox? What Legos do you have that you can use in a different setting? Reinvention does not always mean starting from scratch. I have mentored people who were clinical, who want to become administrative people, and they think that they're starting from scratch. And the first thing I say to you is, if you want to be a leader in administration, what were some of the leadership skills that you acquired while you were in your clinical role? And sometimes it's going to take a little bit of thought to think through that because none of us are really starting from scratch. There is something in your toolkit and something in your toolbox that you can transfer to another setting. Finally, you got to get the plan. Wishing and hoping is a dream, but you've got to plan your work and then you've got to work that plan. Set clear, achievable goals and timelines. And I want to caution you with the timelines. Everything doesn't have to happen when you want it to, because sometimes, and I'm a personal believer in this, that things happen for a reason and they happen when they're supposed to happen. And everything just kind of aligns in the universe. So don't be afraid to set timelines, but don't be afraid when those timelines may not work out the way you want them to. But when you plot your new trajectory, break it down into manageable steps. What's the next step? Then what's the next step? Then what's the next step? And along the way, I want you to celebrate every win that you achieve as you go to that new goal. Finally, you're going to have to embrace change because this is going to be a change. Career transitions can be challenging. So you have to be flexible. All right. Everything's not going to happen the way you want it to happen. You're going to be learning, but learn from the setbacks and stay committed. Remember, if this is your purpose, you're going to keep going. You can keep that momentum and maintain it. And finally, fail forward fast. So figure out what works and what doesn't work. Learn from your errors. My new vice president, I've been in this role at New York Presbyterian. So I left New York Presbyterian for 6 years and I just came back in June and I'm so excited to be back home. And I actually learned this from one of our former leaders when I was here before. But my new vice president is very interesting. And one of the things that I learned in the last 5 months since I've been working with her, she never uses the term mistake. Now, I've made some missteps, as we all do when we start a new role as you're learning, but she's never said, Calandra, you made a mistake there. But she always uses the term missed opportunities. And I really appreciate that. And some of my friends say, oh, that's just semantics. But I believe that words matter. So when you look at things and as things are happening, don't look at them as your mistakes. Don't look at them as failures, but look at them as missed opportunities. So how could I have done that differently? How could I do that better? So there are two common challenges to reinvention. One is fear of the unknown. It's hard to step out of your comfort zone. One of my favorite memes, and I think I use it in most talks that I do, is a circle, and then the circle says comfort zone. And then there's an asterisk outside of the circle, and there's a point to it, and it says where the magic happens. The magic happens outside of your comfort zone. It's hard when you're not sure where you're going to end up, but that's why it's important to plot that trajectory. So focus on your strengths, focus on the opportunities that lie ahead of you, and make sure that you build a network of peers, friends, mentors, professional groups like HLNY who will support your journey. Don't tell everybody your plans. Support people, and people let people support you. Make sure that you have supportive people around you. So that was my presentation. I want to shift for a minute. I want to pivot with purpose to talk about my pivots in my career. So I've pivoted many times, maybe not significant, major pivots, but I had to go through those same steps that I just went through with you all. When I was in college, my plan was to go to med school. All my life, wanted to be a pediatrician. Junior year rolled around, I'm getting ready to register, and I had an epiphany. I do not want to be a doctor. I do not want to go to med school. So I had to quickly pivot, figure out what was important to me, what did I want to do, what steps was I going to take. And I had the opportunity to do that in one afternoon because I had to go back home that weekend and I needed to tell my parents that I wasn't going to med school. So I better have plan B in place. And I did. And I said, well, I love biology. That was my major. If I keep the major, I add on some education classes, I'll become a biology teacher. So that was my plan. And so I went through that. And by the time I graduated from college in another year, I hated it. Not because of the teaching, but I realized it wasn't my calling. That was not my purpose. I was choosing something that was convenient for the situation that I was in. However, I also learned from it. I learned that I did have a love for teaching, and it was going to come back at me later on. So I had to decide fairly quickly what I was going to do. And after consulting with friends who were in the same boat that I was in, I decided I wanted to go into healthcare administration. It's a decision that I made 33 years ago that I have never regretted. And I'm excited and always excited to be part of healthcare. Now, I just told you not to tell everybody what your plans are. But if you promise to keep the secret, I'll tell you what my reinvention plans are. So eventually, again, we're constant learners. I can never leave healthcare alone. But I also know that my passion is teaching. So I've been blessed to be able to teach at Mount Sinai School of Medicine. I've been able to teach at my alma mater at Hofstra. I've been able to do guest lectures at Cornell University, Pace University, other schools, and I've been able to teach healthcare finance, healthcare policy, professionalism, leadership, you name it. And I found that I have a gift for it. It's a big tool in my toolkit. So I want to use that tool plus the things that I've learned over the past 30 some years in healthcare. And part of the reinvention is to teach full time eventually. I told my NYP people I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, but to pivot into full-time education. And then also wanting to work in some environment in higher education. Now, that's my passion. That's what I want to do. And then the third arm is to do consulting. And I have my consulting business now, but to do formal consulting because another passion of mine is mentoring and helping people shape their lives and their careers. So those are kind of the three pivot points. Now, I realize that something's missing in that toolkit. I can do some of that work based on what my current skill set is, but ultimately I will have to get another degree. And so I am working on my doctorate of education. So I identify the gaps to get to where I want to be, and I know what I need to do to get there. I've got connections at schools where I would be able to, work with staff there and potentially work there full time. But that's my future reinvention. And I'm excited about it because it's part of my evolution, it's part of my career journey, and it's another thing that I want to put in my toolbox that I can share with others, whether you're in healthcare or whether you're in another industry. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to open it up for questions. I have another 20 minutes. So if there are any questions that anyone has, I'm not sure how you're moderating questions.
Calandra, I'll ask a opening question. Um, you have had so many career pivots that had to make sense for both you and your family and your life circumstances and situations.
Mhm.
What were the steps you took to kind of accept the fact that change was upon you and then lean into that change and make that challenge into an opportunity? Could you speak to the steps you took and kind of your mentality
Yeah.
to kind of accept that and then make it a benefit?
I have two examples. One was earlier in my career, I had been doing operations about 5 or 6 years. And because of some of the work that I had done in the operations, I had done, a few budgets locally. I was given the opportunity to work in finance, which was something that was very new to me. They explained to me why they thought I would be a good person for it because I understood operations and they wanted somebody who could kind of figure out both ends. At the very beginning, I didn't take to the change very well. I didn't know what I was doing. I was pulling out my MBA textbooks from finance. I was like, I got a C in corporate finance. Why am I working in the finance department? It ended up turning into a good thing because what I was doing in finance was not my gift area. Clearly, I wasn't doing too well in it. But they pulled me into the budget and I was able to find my groove. And I was able to understand something that I didn't know I was kind of good at. And even though those were painful 3 years, I hope no one's listening from the NYP Finance Department because a lot of those people still work here and I've been reunited with them. But it was the best 3 years of my life because then I learned a new skill. And learning how to do budget from the top down is the most incredible skill you can have as somebody in hospital operations. Because a lot of people don't have that skill. So you're able to share that. I am very adamant. I want my managers and directors, you better know your budget. So it was a change that I didn't necessarily. I walked into the change. I leaned into it because I wanted to keep my job, but because I kind of pressed through the part that I wasn't so happy in, I was able to learn something that gave me a little bit of joy. Was I glad to get out of finance? Absolutely. But I was also happy for what I learned because then it became one of the biggest tools in my toolbox. The second one is a little bit more personal as opposed to professional. So when you talk about work-life flow, and Darren knows exactly what this is. When I became the second time I was a board member at HLNY, and I sat in working right under Darren. And it wasn't that long that I was in the position. I had a 3 year trajectory, but I had started school. I was going back to my reinvention plan. That was some of the beginning steps. I was also about to start a new job, coming back to NYP. And I'm the person that I always had balls in the air, always juggling. That was one of my toolbox kits. That was one of my tools. But I had to be very cognizant of the fact that I couldn't do everything. And I had to make a really hard decision, and I had to step down from HLNY. And I am grateful. So sometimes when you make the hard decisions, it was one thing that I wanted to do that I couldn't do, but I knew what I had to do. So I had to make those choices. I couldn't be on HLNY calls and doing my homework and still trying to get ready to get this new job. And my son was home from college, or my daughter who's getting ready to go to college next year. I found that it was stretched in too many different directions. And it was a personal decision that was difficult. I leaned into it, but I did well that semester in school. My kids still felt like I was there for them. My husband still felt like I was there for him. And my HLNY family embraced me. And remember, I said, you've got to have people around you who are willing to support. And that was what was most important. So sometimes you have to make those hard choices, but you lean into it and things come back to you. And that's what I feel. And then on top of that, I got to come back to my home at NYP. I have nothing to complain about.
It's such a
So I hope that
beautiful
was answering your
example.
question.
Absolutely, Calandra. Sometimes taking a step back helps catapult us so much further.
Yes.
Um, we'll transition to a few other questions in the chat, but while I get to them, let me just ask this on behalf of our colleagues in the chat. A lot of us are middle careerists. A lot of us are directors, assistant vice presidents, things of that nature. We're knocking on the door, heads hitting the ceiling in terms of kind of looking forward into that next step for job forward. What are your advice for those of us on this call right now, 45 plus strong, in terms of how do we identify and make that pivot from where we are to where we want to go? How
Hmm.
do we, at the level we're at, align the resources, the community, and all that we are to become all that we want to be? Can you speak to that as you went out to search for that next step and successfully landed
Yes.
it? And then there's a few questions in the chat as well.
So I'll try to answer that quickly. Um, First of all, it is an interesting thing because we've been climbing jungle gym, ladder, whatever you want to call it. You've been doing it so long that you never think, you know what, is this enough? Do I want to go to that next level? I have never had I never want to be at the point where I feel like I've arrived. But sometimes people do. And if you're at that point, well, you feel like, well, I don't want to be the next step. I'm happy where I am. But at some point, you're going to get bored or whatever. That's actually the hint to pivot. One of the things I tell my children, get as much education as you can because that's going to give you flexibility. You will never, ever have to work in a role that you don't like. And I believe that firmly because you have the skill set to do anything you put your mind to. And so if you're somewhere you're not happy, you could find another job and you have the skills to do that. You have amassed at this point in your career so many tools in your toolkit. The world is your oyster. So start thinking about what do I really want to do? It may be something crazy like starting your own consultant firm or starting, your own business. It may be just retiring early. It could be you have to think about what is it that you really want to do. Now, of course, you have to think of the financial implications. So it may mean saving up some money because you may be taking a cut. You may have to think about how your benefits are going to roll around if you're not going to do the kind of work that you had been doing, but look at it as a challenge, and look at it as a new opportunity. So just start thinking about what do I really want to do? If I could do anything I wanted to do, what would it be? And maybe it's still doing the same thing that you're doing, just at another institution. But you should never get to the point, or when you get to the point where you just don't know what else to do, that's when it's time to figure out what you want to do. So I hope that was helpful.
It was inspiring. I'm gonna move to some of the questions in the chat box. First question, Kalandra. Can you tell us some steps you recommend to assisting in finding your purpose?
So some of them I touched on, looking at what gives you pleasure, what makes you happy. I learned that um, education, teaching high school kids biology was not my purpose. But in doing that, I did learn that I had a gift of teaching. I just needed to teach people who wanted to be taught. So even though it was a tool in my toolbox, but like those Legos, I used it differently. So sometimes you have to think about what you're doing now. What is
Did Calandra just freeze on us?
I believe we have a little technical difficulty at talking about pivoting at the right moments. Just give us a second, guys.
While we wait for Calandra, be sure for everybody to put your questions into the Q&A box so we can get to them. Calandra jumped off. She has to probably jump back on. She froze.
Why don't we take this moment, Halim, to remind everyone of upcoming events, maybe?
Yeah, feel free. Go ahead. Start if you want
Oh,
to.
so, ladies and gentlemen, we're so excited. The end of the year is upon us, and we have our um, holiday party at Terrace at the Park on December 2nd. So we truly look forward to having you all there. Because Calandra will be back on shortly. She just texted me. So please, registration is open. We look forward to having you all there. It's a signature event, and it's going to be an incredible time to close out 25 and welcome in an incredible board and team for 26. So please join us for that. Um, believe there's still scholarships to be obtained for the foundation for Hilney. Apply for those. And honestly, I'm so excited for the future in terms of next year. More programs, more activities. I am rambling at the moment to try to give Calandra more time. Sorry, everyone. Uh, happy Tuesday. You're on mute, Calandra. No worries. There we go.
So one of the challenges that I have on a regular basis is that we often get kicked off the internet here at work. So we pivot and we do so I always know, okay, grab the phone. Okay, so I'm back.
Thank you, Calandra. I'm sorry about that. I think you were answering steps to finding your purpose. You gave some examples and then you cut out.
Yes, just look at what you're currently doing and think about the things that you really love doing in your role, even if it's one of the minute things. Maybe it's, a side project that you're working on. I always laugh and say that in my future life, I was going to be an HR person because I love the little side projects that I got to do with HR or with patient experience. So think about those things. And sometimes you'll say, man, I wish I could do this full time. That's usually part of your purpose. This is a time when you really have to listen to the inner voice.
Thank you, Calandra. Next question. How do you find that balance to have the energy and the pivot in your career, but also turn it off and give that same energy at home? Asking as a new mom and student
Mm.
who's
Mhm.
actively looking to pivot in my career.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to tell you something my daddy told me a long time ago. Um, I was telling him about something that I was going to do. I was kind of not mid career. I had been in about 15 years. And I said something to him. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it was personal things. And I'll never forget, I can hear his voice. He said to me, don't do too much. Stop trying to do too much. So I want to say to that person who's a new mom who wants to find, slow down. Don't do too much. Sometimes we have to stop and be linear and do one thing at a time. And I learned that the hard way. That it's okay to finish one thing. Get used to being a mom. Take advantage of that. That's your priority. You're in school. If you have to take a semester off, I had to take a semester off from my doctoral program. It broke my heart. But I realized that in order to do what I needed to do for my family, I had to do that. Um, I never believe in work life balance. I learned from an old colleague at NYP a long time ago it's work life flow. There's some times when certain things take more precedence and take priority over others. So the example I always give is budget. So even when I left finance and went back to operations, I was doing the budget for the department. Budget season was usually about a month where we had back-to-back meetings. I was working late. That was my priority. So I had to change my other priorities. So I cooked on the weekend so I wouldn't have to worry about cooking when I got home. You make adjustments. It's work-life flow. Balance means that everything is always going to be even, and that does not happen. So you have to know how to pivot, how to adjust. As a new mom, that's your priority. You want to go to school to get ahead, that's a priority. But you just have to figure out what's this week's priority, what's this month's priority, and that's how you develop the flow. And let me tell you something, you have to do it without guilt. So as when I became a new mom long time ago, because my kids are 17 and 19 now, but when I became a mother, that was my priority. I stayed out for 3 months. I came back to work because at that point I needed to be around adults again. But what one thing I loved was I did not feel bad being a working mom because I was teaching my children the value of work. When I went back to school, when I started my doctorate, part of that purpose was to teach my children that I could work, I could go to another level in education. I want my kids to be proud of me. I want my husband to be proud of me. So let those things drive you because at the end of the day, if you lose your job or if you leave your job, they will replace you. Your family will not replace you.
I think that's so important to understand the flow of life, and it aligns so well with the flow of leadership in terms of the different stages of our career and life and the different tools we need to tap into for our success in that moment. The next question, when you're transitioning into a new area of the hospital, what's the most effective way to position yourself so leaders see you as a real candidate? And
Mm.
I'll add to that for another question. And then how do you showcase your potential and your skill set in a new environment?
So what's interesting is when I was at New York Presbyterian for 26 years, I was in operations, then I was in finance, and I went back to operations in a different location. First of all, you don't realize that more people know you than you think. So don't think that you're just learning a whole bunch of new people. Um, Let your work speak for itself. Your I forgot the phrase, but it's like, you people should know you before you walk in the door. So that's the first thing. Get exposure. All right. I knew so many people at NYP before I left. And it's really cool because even though I've been gone 6 years and I'm working in a different department, I still remember people because they're still here. Some of them I have to work with now again. And so it's about creating relationships. So that's another one of my strong points, I believe, in my toolkit is I'm able to build relationships. Start building relationships with people. Get involved in other projects outside of your day to day. So that as you move, so I was in like maybe four different areas in the 26 years. I always built relationships so that every time it was a snowball. So by the time I was leaving NYP, I had the biggest snowball behind me because I had built so many relationships. Let your work speak for itself, and be known for someone who's a great colleague, who's someone who's easy to work with, who's someone who likes to collaborate, and somebody who's kind. I'll tell you right now, kindness goes a long way. Those are the things that are going to make you stand out and do your job and do it well because you have to do that because you can be really nice and really bad at your job.
As we always say in Hilney, you win in doing the work.
Right.
I believe this is the final question, unless someone slips a question in. Um, how do you get people to take a chance on you in your target area when your experience comes from a different part of health service or healthcare, or maybe even a different industry? And then following on that same line of thought, how do you then have people look at you differently coming from a different department in terms of you transitioning and doing the work?
So, something my father taught me 33 years ago, I started working at New York Hospital and I was so excited. I was a year out of college and I was just excited. And he stopped me and he said, Calandra, just do your job. And I was like, but daddy, da, da, da. And I was like, all excited. He said, Calandra, just do your job. That has been my mantra every day. Just do your job, meaning not do your minimum, but do whatever it is that your job is and kill all the noise around you. I don't focus on how people see me. I just try, I do my job. I focus on what's important. I focus on building relationships. All that other stuff comes afterward. It comes to you. If you show kindness, it comes back to you. If you show that you're reliable, it'll come back to you. People will pick up on those things. And as I tell people before, if you put something down and they're not picking up, and you're putting down and putting out your best, and they're not picking it up, then you pick up your toys and you go to the next room, because there will be somebody who will see you. There will be someone who appreciates you. If you're going into a different role, a different industry, let them know who you are at your core. That's why you're living and working by purpose, because your purpose is in your core. It's your core values. It's who you are, not just what you do. So when you can show them the transferable skill. So if the transferable skill is that I'm really good at organizing things, then they'll see that you're a great organizer. When I came into behavioral health, I didn't know anything about behavioral health, but I knew how to be a leader. And I came in as a director. So I was the best director I could be. And I started learning behavioral health. So be who you are, be yourself. And then you'll learn the other things. And it all kind of falls together. It all falls together.
Calandra, thank
There is one question in the chat, Calandra. Someone is asking that they've been in healthcare for 25 years, and they said, should you have long-term mentors? And they said, also in this current climate, what are roles or certifications you should consider? I recently received certification from the Yale University in leadership.
Okay, so in terms of certifications, for healthcare, the one that really counts for me is being a fellow. That was my dream, that was my goal, and I became a fellow. Um, when I talked about, especially if you're going into a different industry, you need to go into their equivalent, their equivalent of ACHE, and learn what those certifications are. So maybe you want to go into project management, you may think about getting your PMP. It really depends on where you're going. That's part of you. And I forgot, I left that part out. So thank you, whoever asked that question. Look to see what certifications you may need. But be careful. Don't get certifications just to get letters behind your name. Get them because it's going to be helpful to you in terms of getting a job. If it's a certification that nobody's ever heard of, then you just kind of wasted your time. Getting a certification that's in terms of education, that's like not a degree but a certification, as long as it's something that's going to help you get to that next level, go for it. Just again, use wisdom. Don't spend a whole lot of money doing a whole lot of stuff. Just use wisdom and see what is the one that I really need. um Helene, there was a first part of that question that I
About
just.
long-term mentors.
Long-term mentors, yes. So mentoring comes in different forms. I have some mentees that I have mentored from day one. One of them actually texted me right before the session. She said, Calandra, I wish you well. I can't be there. This is someone that I've been mentoring for the last 7 years. So you can always have long-term mentors. You can have short-term mentors, meaning you might have a mentor that's just helping you get this particular role. You may have a mentor who's going to be a career mentor who can mentor you throughout stages. I have all of the above, and I am all of the above to other people. So there's a book that I read by Stacey Abrams a couple of years ago, and one of the things that she talked about was the different kind of mentors. Now, I said look for mentors in the role that you want to go into, but also cautioning every mentor may not look like you. If you're a woman, you may need a man to be your mentor. It doesn't have to be a woman, let's put it that way. It doesn't have to be a woman who mentors you. Maybe the mentor is in a totally different industry, but they can still have value as a mentor to you. So there's all different types of mentors. I joke with my mentees, I will be your mentor until you fire me. That's my commitment.
I don't see any more questions, Calandra.
I'm sorry if there's
Oh,
banging in the background. Today's the day they want to do the work outside my office that they should have done a month ago.
there is
They
one more
want
question that just popped up. Being
Okay.
someone that has been in healthcare leadership for some time, I still run into reluctancy in accepting a new position, being fearful, again, talking about the comfort zone, of a particular skill that they are seeking that I may not have much knowledge of. I feel it causes me to be stagnant in my career. Any advice for this?
Learn it. If you don't feel comfortable that you know it, learn it on the job. If you're still not learning, go to someone and ask for help. If you're still not learning, what do you need to do? Maybe you need to take a couple of classes. I was like that when I first started in finance, and I don't like feeling like I don't know what I want to do or know what I'm doing. And so don't let it be fearful. Every job that I have gotten, I'm all excited, I'm pumped up. I get the job. It happens every time. 2 weeks before I start, I'm like, what am I doing? I can't do this. And then that fear kind of goes away. I've learned to accept that fear. Sometimes you have to accept the fear. And then you have to use it as a challenge to say, you know what? I'm going to do this anyway. I got this. I was terrified this morning. Helene said to me, you've got this. So sometimes you have to not embrace the fear, but you have to acknowledge it. But then don't let it overcome you where you feel like you can't move. That's
Thanks,
what your
Calandra.
mentors are for.
Thank you, Calandra. Thank you, Calandra.
Thank you all.
All right. If we can get up the slide deck again for our closing comments. So I just want to take a moment to thank Calandra for sharing her wisdom with us today. This was a great session on the career pivot. There was just so much that we were able to take away from today's session with Calandra. So again, thank you, Calandra, for your continued support of the organization and the leadership that you demonstrate to our membership. It's greatly appreciated. Next slide, please. This is a self-reporting qualifying education accredited event. So it is on the attendees today to make sure that they register this event in their My ACHE learning portal. Be sure to follow the instructions that you see on your screen right now, and be sure to report this credit. Next slide, please. This event and all of our other events that we offer to our members throughout the year are in large support because of our sponsors. So we would like to take a moment to thank them for their continued support of the development of healthcare leadership. Next slide, please. Go to the next slide. As we wrap up our year, we have an event coming up this week at St. John's University, our annual Frank Camerano Memorial Dinner and Lecture. Tickets are still available. Attendance for students is free. So be sure to encourage students to attend this event as we talk about strategic career planning for healthcare professionals. And we will wrap up our year with our annual holiday party where we inaugurate and announce the board members for 2026 at our holiday party on December 2nd. Next slide.
There is a mixer
Oh
tomorrow.
yeah, that's right. There is a mixer tomorrow in
Veterans.
Scarsdale at Jackie B's. That is up on our website. If you're interested in attending, it's from 6 to 8 or 9 p.m. Be sure to go to the website and register for that event. And you can also subscribe to our events calendar on the website as well. So you are in the know on all of our upcoming events for the year. Next slide, please. This is for those that are interested in supporting the HLNY Foundation. You can give and your contributions are fully tax deductible to the full extent of the law. And you can go to the foundation's website to learn more. Next slide. Thank you for joining us today once again. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram. You can email us and you can take advantage of the videos that we've posted. This video will be posted both on the website and on YouTube once the recording becomes available in the next week or so. I want to wish everybody a great day. Take care and be well. Thanks again, Calandra, for everything.